Good morning, everybody. Hi, Carlos. Welcome to this episode of Technology Saturdays. How are you doing?
Fine. Thank you, Stefan, for the invitation. I'm very glad to be here with all your viewers.
Very well. So let's get right into it. First of all, today is a little bit different setup. Today we have somebody that very much focused in finance and operational improvement, which is really interesting. And we're going to talk specifically about how to leverage technology, what technology and the broader spec means. But first of all, maybe you can invest 3 minutes to present yourself. What is your background? What have you worked in the industry, and what have you pivoted now into the last 3 years? So
go
ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry, it's a little bit freezing, but yes. I'm an industrial engineer, and I have been working more than 20 years in projects, developing all kinds of projects: science, energy, service companies, mining industry, and more recently, I'm working on profitability. I'm focused on profitability, so I'm working on expense reduction analyst, which is a European company that helps organizations to optimize their costs and boost the profitability.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I think to be able to combine the technical operational knowledge with very solid financial knowledge really enables to see where the opportunity is in the organizations, right? So here comes my first question. As a financial expert, right, and that's maybe looking a little bit into the past, right? The last 2 to 3 years, what have you seen in your analysis, and what you can maybe share with us? Where do the companies spend too much on the current technology, or maybe legacy technology that they still use in their plants?
Well, that is a very good question, Stefan, and I think that will depend on the company and the industry the company works in. Let me explain. There are some companies providing financial services that the spend is more to the IT side,
okay,
or the digital related side. But there are other companies, for example, manufacturing, production, that are spending more on technologies related to ERP or control somehow some areas of their operations. So it will depend. But,
okay, very interesting.
But yes, I mean, we can see that most of the companies are spending more now on technologies related to digital. The last 2 years, and I think for the future, that will be a steady spend.
Okay, so everything related to connectivity. So when you analyze this IT spend, is it mainly because of the equipment is obsolete, or the cost of migrating to a new platform is too big? What's the situation there?
Well, every company has a different situation, so it will depend. Yes, sometimes there are companies that are implementing software or systems that needs to upgrade their infrastructure, but it's not always like that. It will depend. Every case is different. That is the beauty of working on projects, because you never get bored. Every project is different than the one before, even if it looks similar, but no, there are differences always.
Interesting. And also, I'm sure that the solutions that ultimately get implemented are different from project to project. Right?
Yes, of course, of course. Sometimes even you can implement one solution, but in a bigger proportion in one company than another. So they all need just fine tuning.
Very interesting. And from a actual availability, or let's say from a cost standpoint, I think most of the IT stuff has been really getting cheaper, right? You know about there is this Maslow's law, and there is certain laws that technology gets half in cost every 2 to 3 years, right? So I also think that for specifically for smaller companies, it's getting cheaper to jump on this connectivity train over the last 2 years.
Yes, but you know, you have right. You have right. In some way, devices for consumer devices are becoming cheaper, but the technology is also changing. So if you want to be always on top of the technology, you have to invest
the same amount. Okay, gotcha. But this is now maybe 2 or 3 times as powerful, right?
Yes,
okay, gotcha.
Or more.
Or more. Very interesting. So for right now, the situation right now. So this was a little bit the past, and I really get that. Thanks for that assessment regarding what our companies done in the past. So right now, if we look at technology, and not only digital technology, right? We're talking technology as what it really is, what it defines, which is the application of scientific knowledge for practical purposes to reach a specific goal, right? What is the specific knowledge do you think that has the most operational impact? That would be really interesting. Like what do we need to grow as from a skill set, from a knowledge standpoint in the companies to have the biggest operational impact with technology?
Well, I think the human factor is very important. You know, I think that we all born innovative. We all born with a scientist side that in a certain moment of our life we just stop, or at least keep under control for reasons that we are not here to talk about. But there must be another moment when we have to realize that innovation is a need. We have to bring back our scientist side, because this actual revolution of Industry 4.0 is not. It has not to be a responsibility of one man. It has to be a team effort. So in order to be a team and bring that revolution into our company, we have to be scientists and innovative. So that human factor is that will help to companies that have invested some money on innovation or technology to apply on the operations, that has that money that was spent remains as an investment and not become an expense.
Okay.
You know, because some companies invest something and the lack of training or the lack of innovation on the people will get that the investment brings not the value that they expecting.
I like that a lot, actually. I do agree with you 100%. So that curiosity, right? The curiosity that we had when we were younger. How do we maintain this curiosity in the people and not try to turn it off with systems, process, rules, right? In our organizations, how do we keep it open-minded? And that's definitely something that's going to enhance it.
You can be very surprised of the ideas that some people can bring on. If we can incentive their curiosity and their innovation, that is inside us from the beginning, but we have to let them flow.
Awesome. That's really an interesting piece of thought, and I agree totally with you. It's maybe not a specific skill, it's not a specific training. It's more like the overall mindset of the people in an organization that ultimately changes. And we have seen this with the big tech companies, with also there is traditional companies, even manufacturing companies that continue to foster the open mindset and the open innovation mindset, and continue to evolve as businesses. Very interesting. So now looking a little bit into the future, we in this show we also want to see a little bit the past, which we saw, the current state of art, what is the best practice. What do you think now a little bit into the future, right? We don't want to go too far, maybe 1 to 3 years, 1 to 4 years, with the projects that you have seen over the last 2 years. What is your outlook? What do you think? Which technology will have the biggest adoption or grow? Right? And maybe we need to make it also regional. Maybe we will say America or North America. In North America, over the next 2 to 3 years, which technology will have the biggest growth? And not only in automotive, right? Not only in manufacturing, maybe across the industries, maybe even in our lives. What do you think?
Well, the first it comes to my mind is the 5G technology. The reliability that should be provided by that kind of network is a need for everybody in every industry to keep connected, to have reliable connections or internet connections to do this kind of jobs even, but also for work, for controlling systems that you can use from remotely. So the 5G connectivity, I think, is one of the technologies that will grow a lot. Blockchains also brings my attention. The blockchain technology, is just amazing. I think more people will become involved in that. And the other thing I have seen recently, and I just keep seeing, is that as a service revolution, now we have banking as a service, real estate as a service, ERP as a service. That's relatively new. I think it comes from 1 year or 2 years, I think. And I believe that will have big adoption in the coming years.
Interesting. So do you see that we will have manufacturing as a service?
I don't know that how much can we put into the cloud.
Agree. And maybe it's gonna be not the traditional manufacturing processes. It will be more 3D printing, more programmable machines, right, than static assembly lines, right?
Yes. Maybe you can load some programmation stuff and download it in the factory. I don't know. We have to check, but it looks very interesting.
So from a 5G, and I have heard this now several times, and I've not been too deep into it. So of course, the currently connected devices will leverage the new velocity, right, or new technology, because it's not even like, if we hear 4G, 5G, we think it's maybe like 1 times better, but it's actually 100 times better, right? And that's a little bit of what the people still don't realize. But do you think, additionally to the devices that are connected right now, what additional devices will be connected with the 5G network?
Well, I think all those of Internet of Things. Right now it's more normal to go in a house invited, and you see that your host is opening the door from the cell phone. and controlling everything, you know, the lights and the TV and music, the refrigerator, everything is now connected. So is that is that answer your question?
Yeah, sure. Like in the house, it's very clear. But like if we look cars, if we look auto buses, right? If we think maybe other devices or other stuff that we use, our bicycles, right? I don't know, right? Right now we enhance them with we put the cell phone on top of the bike, right? But it will be definitely interesting, because what I've seen is that not every device will connect directly. They will connect to some kind of router, to some kind of infrastructure, and then will connect to the 5G network. So also everything that we have installed in our houses, our Wi-Fi, this will potentially migrate as well.
Yes, I think at the end everything will be connected somehow, some way.
Perfect. So let's look at this question right now. So Carlos Martinez from Monterrey, he has a very interesting question, and I did not include on purpose the pandemic point of view, but since Carlos brings it up, let's look at this. What is your opinion about how the pandemic benefited from the growth of technology in the industry? Like how did we handle the pandemic better because of technology in the industry?
I'm not sure I'm understanding the question well. Could you put that again, please?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, about how the pandemic. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think the pandemic was a disruption in our life. So I don't know. I cannot say that how we can control better the pandemic, but at least we have been informed better, us, you know, so we can take decisions better now, thanks to all the technology that has been applied to communications like this, or like the social networks. So I think that technology worked for us in a way of better communication, so we can take decisions.
I agree.
Better fundamentals.
It's the first time that I've seen dashboards, global dashboards, right? Where you can see, I want to compare this country with this country with this country, and you could configure your own dashboards, and the data was globally available, right? That's definitely a change. But yes, for me, there is one specific thing that I think the big difference on what happened this time than 1920 with the Spanish flu was the creation of the vaccine. And I'm sure that the communication technology, the manufacturing technology, the biotechnology, and as you said, it's not always digital, right? Everything that we know, the genetic technology, right, and the advances in the medicine, that's for me the big difference, right? I'm sure communication is huge, but at the end, more communication does not bring the cases down. What brings them really down is that the advances in the medical field. And I'm sure that most of the stuff that has been developed in manufacturing, for example, how do we manufacture things? How do we share the manufactural technology? I know that since it started last year in March, there was big laboratories starting to produce manufacturing lines for when the time comes and the vaccine is ready, or 1 or 2 or 3 different vaccines, they can start producing right away. That, in my opinion, was really the big difference. And that was the difference between the growth or the advancements of the technology they had over the last 30 years in the mechanical field. It's really, really surprising what's happening. And it's also something that I'm really looking forward when we have more information about our own genetics. We can adjust our own nutritional needs, our medication, and definitely help our body to be better based on our specific genes, because you said at the beginning that every project, every company is different, but still for the people, we apply all the same, right? The same medicine for everybody, right? The same nutrition for everybody. It's not the case, right? Everybody is different. Every human is different and has specific needs. And definitely with the genetic analysis, we can find these needs. So that's something that is not that close. I'm sure that's 5 to 10 years out, right? And we don't want to look too much into the future, but it's really interesting how these medical advances have gone forward. There is lots of regulation for sure, right? Lots of paperwork and documents they need to fill out, but I'm sure they will still continue to help us a lot, and they have benefited a lot in this pandemic.
Yeah, I agree. The health industry is improving a lot. Recently, I have talked to a director of innovating health industry company in Monterrey. They are competing on international contests of innovation on health. So they are making great progress on heart attacks devices to prevent and to deal with. It's very interesting. I agree with you.
Awesome. Very good. Thanks a lot, Carlos, also for the question, and your Tocayo Carlos Martinez for putting this out to us. So going to the last section of the talk, we want to be, of course, we want to stick in this half-hour time frame that I always have done for this talk. Can you share a book that has changed your point of view over the last year and a half? Something that you've read, maybe an article or a book that really caught your attention?
Well, I will go with Sapiens from Yuval Harari. I think it's a book that every one of us has to read because it's the history from the humanity 70,000 years ago up to now, and then a little bit on the future. From animals to cats, it says the book. It's very interesting. It touch almost every aspect of our lives. So I really recommend that book. Even you know what we are just talking about health. In a certain part of the book, it comes the death as a technical issue, you know. So that technical issue, humans have been working on to resolve. So at this point, we are able to fix or produce several parts of the body that if that part fails, then the death occurs. So what will happen, you know, if we continue growing at this speed, what can happen later? We don't know.
Very interesting, yeah. It's the second time I hear about this now in 1 month. The other day I heard a podcast from a guy named Christian Angermeyer, and he was saying something very similar. But maybe over the next 4 weeks, I need to invite somebody from the health sector that is very deep into it. My good friend, Jose Manuel, who is developing and selling a 3D bio printer. I had him on the show last year, and he was talking mainly about entrepreneurship. But maybe this would be a good time to talk about how he actually applies this product, right, in the issues that you just mentioned. And it's interesting. He's also a mechanical engineer. He went to Germany for exchange, then to Argentina, came back to Spain, built his company, and now has his medical doctor degree as well. So he's a combination of mechanical engineering and medical doctor. Can you believe it? So That's really a good point. Maybe we need to ask him the question, because I'm sure he has some very good answers.
Good, very interesting.
Very good, Carlos. So anything that you want to share, or even ask, right? Because I'm always the guy that asks the question.
No, well, the only thing I would like to say is that all this innovation on the companies needs money, you know.
Okay.
All needs money, all needs to be funded. Some companies are using loans from banks or private equity, stuff like that. But the best thing is to try to save, you know. The organization has to try to optimize the expense so they can get back some cash flow and reinvest on this kind of improvements and innovations. That would be the best.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. And that's maybe where the engineers that ultimately work on the technology are not always that close to that part. But I think we need to be close. We need to get close to see where we have excessive spending, where we can get some additional extra cash flow to then be able to leverage technology or do more projects. That's a very good recommendation. I think everybody that is here, that is an industrial engineer, that is a process engineer, project engineer in the companies, that's a very good point. Go back, look for the waste, eliminate it, take that cash, make some nice project. That's a really nice summary of the talk. Really appreciate, Carlos. It was awesome. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend, and I hope to talk to you soon, my man.
My pleasure. Thank you for the invitation, and good weekend for everybody.
Sure. Bye-bye.